Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation in it. And what is the use of a book without any pictures or conversations? She was wondering in her own mind whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would have been worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in it, nor did Alice think it was very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be late." But when the rabbit actually took a watch out for the waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet when it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either waistcoat pocket or watch take out of it. And burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was going to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not had a moment to think about stopping herself, for she found herself falling down what seemed to be a very deep well. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and to wonder what was going to happen next. First she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at her sides of the well and noticed they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves and passed it. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody underneath, so she managed to put it in one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Well, Alice thought to herself, after all this, I shall think nothing of tumbling stairs. However brave they'll all think me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about if even I fell off the top of the house. I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see, it must be 4,000 miles down, I think. Yeah, that's about the right distance. But when I wonder what latitude or longitude I've gotten to. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny would it be to come out among the people that walk with their heads downward. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, Mama, is this New Zealand or Australia? And what a little ignorant girl she'll think for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. It'll never hurt to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice soon began talking again. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat or something like that. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice begun to say to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For this, she couldn't answer either question. It didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream, and she was walking hand in hand with Dia, was saying to herself earnestly, Now, Dia, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped to her feet in a quick moment. She looked up, but it was dark overhead. Before before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight. Hurrying down it, there was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, as it turned the corner, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting!" She was close enough behind. She turned the corner, and the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked, while Alice had been all the way down one side and up the other. Trying every door, she walked away sadly, wondering how she was ever going to get out. Suddenly, she came upon a three-legged table made of solid glass. There was nothing on it but a tiny golden key, and Alice's first idea was she might have to belong to one of the doors in the hall. Either of the locks looked too large, or the key was too small, but at any rate, it would not open any of them. However, on the second time round, she came upon a certain low curtain she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight it fitted. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passageway, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. However, she longed to get out of the dark hall and wandered about among these beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains, but she could not get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought poor Alice, it would be very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. There seemed to be no use waiting by the little door, so she went back in on the table, hoping she might find another key. This time she found a little bottle on it, and tied it around the neck of the bottle was a little paper with the words "Drink Me," beautifully printed on large letters. It was very well to say "Drink Me," but it was a little wise that Alice was going to do that in a hurry. "No, I'll look first," she said. "I'll see whether it's marked poison or not." This bottle was not marked poison, so Alice ventured to taste it. Finding that it was very nice, she very soon finished it off. "What a curious feeling," said Alice, "to be shutting up like a telescope." And for this, and so it was indeed. She was now only 10 inches high, and her face brightened up at the. She was now the right size to fit through the little door into the lovely garden. However, she waited a few minutes to see if it was going to shrink any further. She felt nervous about this, for it might end, said Alice to herself. "Am I going out altogether like a candle? I wonder if I should be like then." After a while, finding that there was nothing more happened, she decided on going into the garden at once. But Alice, for poor Alice. When she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key, and that she went back to the table for it. She found she could not possibly reach it. She could see quite plainly through the glass, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery, and when she tried herself with coming, the poor little thing sat down and cried. "There's no need to cry," said Alice. "I advise you to leave off this one minute." She generally gave herself very good advice, but sometimes she scolded herself on severely as to bring tears into her eyes. Once she remembered trying to box her own tears for having cheated herself in the game of croquet. Her eye fell off a little glass and was lying under the table. She opened it and found it in a very small cake. The words "Eat me" were beautifully marked on the currants. "Well, I'll eat it," said Alice. "If it makes me grow any larger, I can reach the key. And if it makes me grow any smaller, I can creep under the door, so either way I'll get into the garden. I don't care which happens." So she ate a little bit anxiously to herself. Which way? Which way? Holding her hand to the top of her head while it was growing, and then she was quite surprised that she had retained the same size. To be sure, what generally happens when one eats cake, but Alice got so much into the way expecting nothing out of the way things to happen, that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in the common way. So she set to work and very soon finished off the cake.